North Korea's economy is facing very difficult times. Food prices have increased drastically. The cost of basic goods is making it hard for families to afford what they need. Many people are struggling to put food on the table. The government is trying to control the economy, but it's actually making things worse. One of the biggest problems is the exchange rate for the North Korean won. The government sets an artificial rate that is much higher than what it's actually worth. This makes it hard for people to buy and sell things from other countries. It also makes it difficult for businesses to operate. The government says it's trying to protect the economy, but these measures are hurting ordinary people. The situation is so bad that many people are turning to the black market to buy and sell goods. This underground economy is illegal in North Korea, but it's one of the only ways for people to get what they need. However, the government is cracking down on these black markets, making life even harder for ordinary citizens. Many experts believe that the government's economic policies are a big part of the problem. They say that the government needs to make changes to improve the lives of its people. However, it is unclear if the government is willing to make these changes. The North Korean government has a very tight grip on information. They control all the media, including newspapers, television, and radio. This means that people are only exposed to the government's version of events. The government doesn't want people to know about the problems happening in other countries. The government also censors the internet very strictly. They want to prevent people from accessing information from the outside world. Access to foreign websites, especially those from South Korea, is blocked. Anyone caught accessing banned websites faces harsh punishments. This control over information creates a climate of fear and self-censorship. People are afraid to speak out against the government or even discuss certain topics. They know that they could face serious consequences, including imprisonment or worse. This lack of freedom of expression is a major human rights concern. The control extends beyond just information. The government also closely monitors people's movements and communications. They want to know what people are doing and saying at all times. This constant surveillance creates a chilling effect on society. It discourages people from expressing their true thoughts and feelings. There is a stark contrast between life in North Korea's cities and its rural areas. The capital city, Pyongyang, is a showcase for the country. It has modern buildings, well-stocked stores, and a relatively high standard of living. However, this prosperity is mostly limited to the elite and those who live in the capital. Outside of Pyongyang, life is very different. Rural areas are plagued by poverty, food shortages, and a lack of basic infrastructure. Many people in the countryside struggle to survive. They lack access to adequate healthcare, education, and job opportunities. While the government acknowledges this disparity, its efforts to address it have been largely ineffective. The Regional Development 20x10 policy, launched with the aim of boosting rural development, has failed to deliver on its promises. The policy lacks the necessary resources and relies heavily on ideological incentives rather than practical solutions. This stark inequality is a major challenge for North Korea. It creates resentment and instability, as those in the countryside feel left behind by the regime. The government's inability to bridge this gap could have serious consequences for the country's future. The Regional Development 20x10 policy was introduced with the goal of revitalizing rural areas in North Korea. The plan was ambitious, aiming to improve infrastructure, increase agricultural productivity, and provide better services to the countryside. However, the policy has faced numerous challenges and has not lived up to expectations. One of the main issues is the lack of funding. The government has not allocated sufficient resources to make the necessary improvements. Additionally, the policy relies heavily on ideological motivations, which are not enough to drive real change. Practical solutions and investment are needed to address the deep-rooted problems in rural areas. The policy's failure has led to growing frustration among rural residents. They feel abandoned by the government and see little hope for improvement. This discontent could lead to further instability and pose a threat to the regime's control. The government must take concrete steps to address the needs of its rural population if it hopes to maintain stability and improve the overall well-being of its people. North Korea, a nation often isolated on the world stage, has found a somewhat unlikely ally in Russia. This relationship, built on mutual interests and strategic advantages, has evolved over the years. Both countries, facing international sanctions and diplomatic pressures, see value in supporting one another. It's a partnership that, while not without its complexities, offers both nations a way to navigate their respective geopolitical challenges. The bond between North Korea and Russia is a fascinating example of how international alliances can form under unique circumstances. North Korea's involvement in the Ukraine conflict has led to numerous casualties among its citizens. The impact on families back home is profound, with many mourning the loss of loved ones. This has added another layer of hardship to an already struggling nation. The international community has imposed severe sanctions on North Korea, crippling its economy. These sanctions have restricted trade, leading to shortages of essential goods and services. Despite these challenges, the country continues to seek alternative means to sustain its economy, often through illicit channels. The global backlash against North Korea's actions has been swift and severe. However, within the country, the government has spun a different narrative, portraying itself as a victim of foreign aggression. This domestic narrative aims to unify the population against perceived external threats. North Korea is a nation forged in adversity. Despite facing immense challenges, the resilience of its people remains unbroken. The future is uncertain, but the spirit of the North Korean people continues to endure, shaped by a history of struggle and survival.